What I've been doing with my free time, usually I'll spend my free time watching a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I've fallen behind on that in the last couple of weeks because Pluto TV.
Love Pluto.
I'll get on there, and like the two channels I got saved are the like the old school TV channel that always has Three's Company playing.
Yeah, the old sitcoms channel. That's one of my one of my faves as well.
That and the other fave I have is Baywatch.
Oh yes, I have that as a favorite as well. Yes, I love Pluto.
I've been watching a lot of Baywatch. Now, usually what I've fallen into is most of the time when you tune in, you got standard Baywatch, and I've seen the episode before. Not that I've seen every episode, because into the later seasons, I stopped watching, and a lot of stuff happens that I'm like finding out just for the first time now.
A lot of stuff that doesn't make sense.
But Baywatch Hawaii, I've given it a chance. I'll watch Baywatch Hawaii because I've never seen it before, and I'm just watching it. I'm just like, wow, this is so good. The women are all really, really hot. I like them all. I like the story. I like seeing young Jason Momoa, and just, it's Baywatch, but it's like a new spin. I really like it, and I hate myself for liking it, but I just can't stop watching it.
I can't say I've ever watched more than scattered episodes of the Baywatch Hawaii.
It holds up, man.
But you got to figure they're all trying a lot harder than the main Baywatch cast, at least, because they're trying to get this new spin off the ground.
Yeah, and there's no absurd formulaicness for the most part. A little bit, but in the later seasons, the later like half of 9 Baywatch regular episodes, they were just running out of shit to do. So they'd have like the terrorist tries to kill a random member of Baywatch because he wants revenge.
Which are some of my favorite episodes, by the way, when it gets really stupid.
Like I watched one where there was a giant electric eel that was like hunting for people and killing people and stuff.
Sure, that wasn't Baywatch Nights?
It was regular old Baywatch. And then they have these celebrity episodes where, like the wrestling one was a classic.
Yes, with Macho Man and Hulk.
Yeah, Macho Man and Hulk. And it opens up with them on jet skis. And they're going around on jet skis. And, you can't hear shit when you're on a jet ski. But, of course, they had, like, the really clear, crisp, clean 80-yard, "Ooh, Hulkster, watch me do this."
That's because their voices are so manly, they overcome the...
penetrate through
the jet ski.
That's the one where Ric Flair is buying up Child's Rec Center. And, of course, Macho Man and Hulk have to have a cage match in order to save the kids. And Ric Flair's like at his Ric Flairiest. He's just woo every 5 seconds. It's just, come on, let's go. Woo! I don't like when a celebrity shows up and they just meet, and in the next scene it's like Hulk Hogan comes walking up and sits down right outside the Baywatch Tower and looks sad, and CJ comes out like they're best friends. What's wrong, Hulkster? And they have this real emotional talk. That doesn't happen. Like, what's going on?
I think it does happen if you look like Pamela Anderson. You can walk up to anybody and talk to them, and they will open up.
That might be true. There's one where there's this retarded kid or disabled kid or handy kid or whatever, and he's in a wheelchair, and he's given like a little bit of attitude because they don't have wheelchair access to the beach.
I remember this one, yes.
So Pam's that's her B story. She's all over it, right? And there's another one where Yasmin Bleeth is doing something with a retarded child. And I'm like, you can't be hugging him and rubbing your titties on him. You're like really hot. If you were ugly as fuck, he'd probably fall in love with you. But you're like Yasmin fucking Bleeth, and you're like rubbing your boobs on him and hugging him and telling him he's great and special. What the fuck are you doing? You're too hot to do that to retarded people. Yeah, but just the absurdity of it, man. It's just, but you can't stop watching, right? I mean, you say you watch it too.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a fabulous thing to just have on in the background and note what's going on.
I know. And I mean, I'm not a prude at all. If like on network television, they had titties all the time, I'd be cool with it. But I also have a sense of order in the universe. So I'm like watching, and this is both Baywatch and Hawaii. The suits, they're not even French cut. They're like pube cut. And I'm like, you're like a government employee, aren't you? Aren't you like a civil servant? What the fuck are you wearing?
How do you walk
Kids
around
can
like
see
that?
you.
Are you in a meeting? You're in a meeting
It's so
wearing
wrong.
this.
I know. It's just, how do you do that? Things about Baywatch that I have noticed just the last couple of weeks, and I did a little bit of reading up today too. First of all, we are old enough. Like a lot of it, I watched original airing. So I was like right there while it was playing. One episode, they bust out, wait, Mitch is a Navy SEAL?
Yes.
I'm like, when the fuck did this happen? And I researched it today, and the first mention of it was season 3, episode 15. So they actually didn't do anything with it.
Right.
You know, retired military people. I know retired military people. In their house, they have shit hanging up. You know, they have flags and commendations and military pictures, and they act like they've been ex-military. Mitch, in no way, acts like that. In no way.
Well, Mitch has so much else going on with him that he's got so many trophies around his house. It's really hard to see them. I'm sure they're there if you go look.
It's been buried under
all of his paddleboarding trophies and samurai swords.
Yeah, and best PI X-Files person of the year and shit like that. I looked up today on just doing my little research before the show, and I eventually ended up on tvtropes.com and was just looking at all the tropes that are associated with Baywatch. And Mitch is what's called the ace, which is he's like the Navy SEAL kickboxing architect. Whatever the episode requires, the samurai one.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the dark past, private investigator. So he's an ace. Yeah, the kickboxing episode where apparently he has his whole like past kickboxing career where he's training what's his name to be a kickboxer. That was weird.
Of course, he was a champion kickboxer, yes.
Yeah. The wrestling thing came up in the tropes. They had something called mood whiplash. And okay, let me read exactly what it says. What shall we have as the B plot for the pro wrestling episode where Hulk Hogan battles Ric Flair to save a rec center? How about Stephanie getting skin cancer? So that is interspersed between, okay, brother, we got to save the rec center. Woo!
Oh, my God.
That is mood whiplash as a trope. And then the final one that I took note of was Oscar bait. That one's kind of self-explanatory.
Oh, yeah.
It takes note of the fact that Baywatch is the longest-running show to never be nominated for an Emmy. And it points out that the series is littered with two-parters and very special episodes about characters getting cancer, getting crippled, or something that makes for dramatic storytelling. And then it points out that, despite all their efforts, the episodes failed because they were often clumsily written, had awkward product placement, and they usually featured a cheesy subplot such as fighting jewel thieves or mafia gangsters. They're having this like real effort, like guys, it's Oscar season. Let's really write a banger so we can get like that fucking Emmy that we've missed for the last 5 seasons, and it somehow ends up with jewel thieves and mafia gangsters. This was always the case, but it got more and more absurd to the point where it was formulaic, where it made me think of I often, not often, it doesn't come up that often, but I have in the past joked about Murder, She Wrote, where Angela Lansbury shows up, fucking run, somebody's getting murdered. Every week of her life, somebody is murdered and she has to solve it.
Yeah, she's behind it all.
Well, so I'm watching an episode today where Mitch has some kind of like little kid. He's trying to get to the junior lifeguard program because his dad's beating him or something like that. Okay. So he's like, hey. And they start getting onto a school bus to go somewhere. Like, no, don't get on the fucking school bus with Miss Buchanan, no! And I said, it's going to go off the bridge. Oh, yeah. And I don't think I've seen the episode before. And, of course, it runs off the bridge, and they have to have the big save. My question is, does Mitch Buchanan not have any self-awareness? Like, this doesn't happen to regular people. Every time he goes somewhere and does something, it's going to fuck up. How dare he get on a bus with school children? Jesus.
Yeah, he's a walking vortex of chaos. Wherever he goes, a plot's going to occur around him. So,
I mean, it's like, hey, CJ, I really love you this episode. Weren't you going out with Shawnee? No, just, I love you this episode. Let's go on a date. So, of course, they go on a beach-centered date because their whole job is the beach. So, of course, they're going to go on a beach date. And they go out in like a boat in the ocean. A giant electric eel is going to attack them. There's no way that some shit isn't going to go, or a terrorist will show up and I don't know. So Baywatch Hawaii, I'm kind of watching it out of order. Sometimes it's season 1, sometimes it's season 2. I'm just trying to get the lay of the land. And it turns out that Sean Monroe, who's the Mitch, the leader of Baywatch Hawaii, he's like the Mitch person. It turns out he's a Navy SEAL too.
Oh no!
So I know, and this shit happens. All this like SEAL shit happens, and apparently he was in SEAL Team 2. And yeah, apparently in order to run a lifeguard station, you have to be a ex.
That's Navy where they SEAL. Recruit from. Nothing but the best.
I'll be ready. One final thought I had on just the Baywatch formula as a whole, and it got much more pronounced the later you get into the seasons. It's a technique that they probably, I don't know if they pioneered it, but they definitely like perfected it, at least for their uses. It's storytelling by montage.
Oh, sure.
And the writers don't have to come up with all this, annoying words and interaction and conversations and lines and stuff. They just need enough to set up the montage, and then they have the montage. There's probably like special montage writers, and then they just have like a line dismissing it or moving on to the next scene at the end. So storytelling by montage. So, okay, our B story is Neely's going to try to frame Matt for sexual harassment or rape. Because Neely did that when she first showed up.
Yes. Oh, I remember that. Yes, he was evil.
Let's have a montage about that. And just every episode, it was just so weird.
Yeah, and if the episode comes up short, you just put the montage in slow motion, and boom, there you go.
Just make it a little bit longer.
It's kind of genius, really. It's kind of genius. I miss a good montage. I think they burned out montages from the popular culture because we haven't seen the like since.
To round out the conversation, most people, and I don't like liking what most people like, but most people would probably say Pam Anderson.
Right.
Not my answer. Hottest Baywatch babe of all time. All shows, everything connected with it.
Oh, boy.
I'd have a tough time answering that too. I think I just set myself up for a.
They're all kind of fighting through my head here. I've got more of a thing for dark hair than light hair, so maybe more leaning towards the Carmen Electra side of things.
Let me think about my answer. Part of me wants to say I like the cute little from Midwestern America that came to California and became a lifeguard. So you got like your Summer, who was Nicole Eggert.
Right.
Not at first, but when she got her big old titties.
Right, yeah.
And then later episodes, I'm brain farting on her name, but they had another little cute little blonde girl that was on a show previously. I think she was on like Saved by the Bell later seasons. So maybe that. But then honestly, my favorite, just as far as like just sheer blazing hotness, is Stacey Kamano, the Hawaiian. I think her name is Keikoa from Baywatch Hawaii. Just holy fucking blazing ball sacks as a good-looking woman. She looks like really, really Hawaiian. Her dad is Mr. Miyagi. They had one episode where Pat Morita was on.
Oh, nice.
I know. But yeah, she's just like, damn. There's an actress named Krista Allen who was, did you ever see anything having to do with Skinamax? Or maybe it was Showtime, Skinamax, one of those in the 90s.
They all blur together.
It was called Emmanuel in Space. It's the classic literary, the classic literary, like erotic Emmanuel who had a couple of movies. There was like some.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah. Those were important to my formative years.
They came out in the 90s with something called Emmanuel in Space, and they had like 7 hour-and-a-half long episodes.
This is like Leprechaun in space.
She meets these aliens, and the aliens look like humans, and she introduces them to like sex and shit like that and swinging. It was the best show ever. Not really. I mean, it was horrible. But the actress, Krista Allen, was just like unbe-fucking-believable. And like she showed up in a couple of different things, like Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey. She was like the big-titted girl in the elevator that he couldn't not lie to. So she showed up in a few different things, and every time I saw her, I was like, "Oh, it's Emmanuel in Space! Oh, fuck!" But yeah, she was in Baywatch Hawaii at least for like the whole 2 seasons. So
looking that up now. Where can I find this show?
Just type in Emmanuel in Space. You'll see.
Yeah, here it is. Oh, this sounds amazing.
The reason why it was such a good show is, number one, it was campy and cheesy and stupid, but number two is just because Krista Allen just is easily one of the best looking naked people I've ever seen, ever. I can't believe you never heard of Emmanuel in Space.
This is like Leprechaun in Space, but with tits.
Yeah, very much so.